I have made the choice to begin a fresh existence without you. Those syllables hung in the atmosphere of the high-end eatery where we had congregated to celebrate my offspring-esque university commencement. Mark, my spouse of 28 years, remained standing with his flute of bubbly still held high, his declaration replacing the tribute he was meant to be giving to Sophie's successes. The noise of cutlery stopped. Talk died down in the middle of sentences. 50 pairs of eyes shifted between Mark and myself, anticipating my response, looking for the sobbing, the screaming, the theatrical departure everyone assumed would happen. Instead, I gave a grin. Good job on your frankness. My name is Amanda Sterling. I am 54 years of age, and until this very second, I had been portraying the part of the loyal spouse and parent flawlessly. I delayed my own professional goals to assist Mark through 3 commercial endeavors, to occupation shifts, and endless stages of finding himself. I nurtured our gifted daughter, Sophie, who reclined beside me at this moment. Her mortarboard still situated on her skull, her look paralyzed in terror. From the periphery of my vision, I could observe Vanessa Price, Mark's significantly younger parent, moving restlessly at the rear table, where she reclined with individuals I had deemed companions for decades. The identical companions who evidently understood the infidelity, but never considered informing me. The identical Vanessa who had joined our holiday festivities, who had previously contacted me for guidance regarding her profession. With disciplined serenity, I reached inside my bag and extracted a shut cream-toned envelope. I set it softly next to Mark's dish. "What is this?" he questioned, his winning look stumbling. "Something for you to peruse later," I answered, keeping my tone firm. I turned towards Sophie, whose skin had turned colorless. I brushed her cheek. "I am very proud of you, darling. This afternoon is still regarding your success." Then I rose, flattened my gown, and spoke to our bewildered attendees. "Please relish your food. I hope you all have a wonderful day." With that, I exited the eatery, my chin held high, sensing 50 pairs of eyes trailing me. The thick portal slammed shut behind me, silencing the start of worried whispers. Outside, the Georgia summer heat struck me like a brick, but I embraced it. For the initial time in years, I could inhale freely. Behind me, I perceived the eatery portal open and bang shut, succeeded by Mark's tone, no longer certain, but shrill and panicked. "Amanda, what on earth is this? What have you performed?" I continued strolling, permitting myself a faint grin. The packet I had provided him held the start of my retaliation, one I had been carefully arranging for months. I had always been the sensible one in our matrimony. While Mark envisioned grand things and took gambles, I upheld the balance our household required. I was the individual who accumulated funds for Sophie's schooling when Mark made poor investments in his Pal's dining project. I was the individual who labored additional hours as a budget supervisor at Zenith Corp, when his middle-age crisis caused him to abandon his firm job to pursue his hobby, retailing handmade furniture, a hobby that endured roughly half a year before he became tired. My own ambitions, starting a wealth advisory for females, were constantly delayed after Sophie finishes school, I told myself. After Mark achieved balance 3 months back, I spotted errors in our collective ledgers, tiny migrations to a ledger I did not recognize. Having spent 2 decades overseeing our family wealth, these anomalies stood out like warning signs. I could have challenged Mark instantly, but something stopped me. Maybe it was a gut feeling, or maybe it was the expanding gap between us during the past year. Instead, I started quietly probing. What I found was grimmer than I imagined. Mark had been methodically shifting capital to a separate ledger for over a year. He had also been escorting Vanessa to pricey eateries, buying trinkets and viewing oceanfront land, all while informing me we had to save money for her older years. Then appeared the electronic notes I found when Mark left his device unlocked. Notes regarding their fresh life together. Notes regarding how he was finally escaping. Notes regarding their arrangements for the day following Sophie's graduation. The day he had picked to make his grand departure from our matrimony. What Mark had neglected or perhaps never completely understood was that I had been a wealth expert for 30 years. I comprehended currency paths. I understood how to follow possessions. And most crucially, I recollected the premarital pact we had endorsed 28 years ago when I possessed more ancestral wealth than he did. The pact he had demanded, paradoxically, to safeguard his future profits held a faithfulness provision that would turn out to be his downfall. While Mark organized his flight with Vanessa, I was constructing my argument. I spoke with I recorded every concealed migration. I collected proof of their infidelity. I drafted separation documents. I timed everything flawlessly. knowing Mark would desire to wait until after Sophie's commencement to escape damaging her big day. What he did not foresee was that I would deliver the separation documents the dawn of the graduation before his intended declaration, but with the documents still safely tucked in legal files not yet viewable to him. What Mark did not know was that I was always 3 paces in front. I did not go back to the eatery. Instead, I steered to our residence, a grand colonial in the old sector that we had bought 15 years back, the residence that Mark had already promised to Vanessa, according to electronic notes that he did not realize I had observed. I stopped in the path and calmly entered what had been our shared environment for over 10 years. Everything appeared identical. The household images on the partitions, the old clock that had been my sire's, the used skin sofa where Mark and I had once envisioned our future together. Yet everything had shifted. I went up to the main suite and opened the cabinet. Mark's attire was already bundled in bags, tucked in the back, ready for his intended exit tomorrow. I grinned at his expectedness. He had always been careful about attire, but sloppy about the significant things. My device rang constantly with notes from companions at the eatery, from Sophie, even from Mark's sibling Elena, who had traveled in for the commencement. I replied only to my offspring. I am fine. This is not your weight to bear. Relish your commencement day. We will converse tonight. I love you. I had shielded Sophie from the reality for months, not wanting to dim her final term with family conflict. She would be annoyed that I had not informed her, but I knew she would comprehend eventually. Sophie had received my pragmatism along with her sire's charm, a potent mix that had helped her finish with distinction. 3 hours later, I perceived Mark's vehicle in the path. The main portal banged open. Amanda! He yelled, his tone vibrating through the residence. Where are you? I was seated in the lounge, calmly checking files on my portable computer. I shut it as he rushed in, his skin red with fury, the packet held in his hand. What is the intent of this? He asked, shaking the documents. You delivered separation documents to me today of all days, I thought. Thought it matched well with your arrangements, I answered calmly. You desired to begin your fresh life. I am merely assisting in making the change. You had no authority to? I had every authority. I cut in, my tone firm, just as you had every authority to pick Vanessa. We all make decisions, Mark. The pact ended years ago, he stated, his tone suddenly arrogant. Any solicitor will inform you of that. I permitted myself a faint grin. Actually, it did not. Clause 12 specifically says that the faithfulness provision stays active for the length of the matrimony. Your solicitor should have explained that to you. Oh, wait. You did not speak to Juan, did you? The tint vanished from his skin as truth arrived. The pact he had insisted upon to safeguard his potential riches would now cost him everything. The residence, the holiday land, his share of our retirement ledgers. His grand act at the eatery had just become the most pricey declaration of his existence. You cannot do this to me, Mark said, falling onto the sofa. We constructed this life together, and you chose to finish it, I answered. Though not in the manner you arranged. Mark's device rang repeatedly in his pocket. He touched it, then shoved it aside. Vanessa, surely, wondering where he was, and why he was not following their carefully staged arrangement. You have always been calculating, Amanda. But this is frozen, he stated, trying a different tactic. What about our past? 28 years together counts for nothing. I looked at him, this male I had cared for nearly 3 decades. The male who had gripped my hand through 2 losses before we had Sophie. The male who had once startled me with a weekend trip for our 10th anniversary. When had he shifted? Or had he always been this individual and I had been too loyal to see our past meant everything to me? I answered honestly, that is why your disloyalty pained me so much. His look softened for a second. Maybe seeing a chance? Then maybe we can mend this. I made an error. People make errors. This was not an error, Mark. This was a calculated arrangement lasting more than a year. You methodically shifted our currency. You viewed land with her. You arranged to declare our split openly to shame me. His skin grew tough again. You are being dramatic. Am I? I grabbed my device, opened the taping tool, and played his own tone. After the commencement, I will inform her it is finished. A public place is superior. She will not cause trouble in front of everyone. Then Vanessa's tone. And she has no clue about the currency. Mark again, none. Amanda believes me completely. That is her flaw. The blood left his skin. You taped our talks? That is prohibited. Not in this state, when one individual agrees, I answered. And not when it is in your own residence. I did not tape your secret times with Vanessa. I am not mean. Just the talks regarding your arrangements to cheat me. Mark rose suddenly, restless. I need to make some calls. Of course, I said. Your solicitor might be a fine beginning. I will be staying at Elena's tonight. Elena's, he stammered. My sibling's house. I nodded. She is quite annoyed with you. Actually, she was the individual who first saw you and Vanessa together last Yule. She did not inform me instantly. She challenged you first. You pledged to her it was nothing, that you would finish it. When she realized you had not, she came to me. This was another hit he had not foreseen. Elena and I had always been near, but Mark never thought his own sibling would pick my side. Everyone is betraying me, he whispered. Poetic, is it not? I gathered my bag and a small night bag I had bundled earlier. You have until tomorrow night to take your things from the residence. After that, the bolts will be swapped. As I went toward the portal, Mark shouted after me, panic in his tone. What about Sophie? Have you thought about how this touches her? I stopped, fury finally piercing my calm mask. Do not you dare use our offspring as a shield, Mark. You certainly were not considering her when you were arranging your fresh seaside life with Vanessa. His device rang again. This time he looked at it and sighed. Issue? I questioned. Vanessa's at the flat already. She has shifted her things in. I could not help but grin. The flat you put in both your names? The contract you endorsed last month. Mark nodded, appearing baffled. You might want to check with the rental bureau. That request was marked for debt issues and never finished. The staff called our home device to check facts. I managed it myself. I stepped out the portal, leaving Mark to face the initial of many results. His perfectly arranged fresh life was falling apart faster than he could grasp. Elena lived in a lovely cottage across town, near the academy where she lectured on poems. When I got there, she welcomed me with a strong embrace. I just heard from Sophie, she said, pulling me inside. Are you all right? I am better than I expected, I confessed, following her to the galley where a bottle of wine was already unsealed. I never thought Mark would create such a scene, Elena said, filling 2 stems. The eatery in front of everyone. He has lost his senses. It was intended to shame me, I clarified, taking the stem, a public casting off, so I could not struggle back without appearing wild. Elena's skin grew dark. My brother always did have a taste for theater, but this is beyond anything I anticipated from him. We sat in her sunroom, surrounded by boxed greens and bookshelves. Elena had never wed, favoring her autonomy and school goals. Over the years, I had sometimes wanted her liberty. What did you put in that packet that made him so angry? She asked. I clarified the items, the separation folder, the proof of his wealth trickery, and most crucially, the premarital pact that would leave him with far less than he had arranged. The pact, Elena thought. I recollect when he demanded it. Saya had just provided him that currency for his initial firm, and he was so concerned about safeguarding it. She chuckled sadly. The irony is tasty. My device rang Sophie. I took a deep breath before picking up. Mother, she said immediately, her tone tight. I am coming over to Aunt Elena's sweetie. You do not have to. I am already on my way, she cut in. Father is informing everyone you have lost your senses, that you have been arranging this for months. He is saying terrible things. Of course he was. Mark always changed stories to present himself as the prey. Let him speak, I said. The truth will become obvious soon enough. 20 minutes later, Sophie got there, still in her commencement gown, but with her paints smeared from sobbing. She collapsed into my limbs like she used to as a toddler after a bad dream. Why did you not inform me? She asked, her tone hidden against my arm. I did not want to spoil your final term, I clarified. You labored so hard for this day. She pulled back, cleaning her eyes. Well, Father took care of spoiling it anyway. We shifted to Elena's lounge, where Sophie finally received the whole tale. How I had found the infidelity, the wealth deceptions, and the arrangements Mark and Vanessa had produced. I knew something was wrong with Father. Sophie confessed he has been varied, busy, always on his device. But I never thought. None of us want to perceive these things in individuals we care for, Elena said softly. My device rang with an electronic note from Robert Miller, my solicitor. The web filing had been granted. The ledgers I had named were locked, awaiting the separation steps. Mark Nalla had restricted entry to capital, enough for basic costs, but not enough to carry out the land buys he had arranged with Vanessa. I showed the note to Elena and Sophie. Good, Sophie said strongly. He merits it. My offspring's loyalty comforted me, but I was not foolish. He is still your sire. I reminded her. Your bond with him is apart from what is occurring between us. Sophie tossed her head. Maybe one day, but right now, I cannot even view him. He hugged me this morning and told me how proud he was, all while arranging to shatter our household hours later. The bell rang, stopping our talk. Elena went to see to it, returning moments later with a worried look. It is Mark, she said. And he is not alone. I prepared myself as Elena guided Mark and Vanessa into the lounge. Vanessa appeared uneasy, shifting her weight from one limb to the other, her eyes darting around the area. She was 37, not exactly a young bride, but still 17 years my junior, with light hair and the kind of poise that comes from never having dealt with real pain. Mark, by contrast, appeared livid. His earlier panic had turned into fury. Amanda, you need to halt this madness, he insisted. Unlock the ledgers. We can talk about this like sensible adults. Sophie rose, placing herself slightly in front of me. Maybe you should have attempted being sensible before declaring to everyone that you were abandoning Mother. Mark's eyes grew wide as if just seeing our offspring. Sophie, this does not involve you. Does not involve me? She repeated, shocked. You've shattered our household on my graduation day, and it does not involve me. Vanessa gripped Mark's arm. Mark, maybe we should leave. He shook her away. No, I am not departing until Amanda consents to be logical about this. Elena folded her limbs. My sister-in-law seems to be the only logical individual in this scene. You are the one who produced this chaos. Mark, I stayed seated, viewing the theater occur. For years, I had been the diplomat, the one who calmed disputes and kept everyone glad. That part was tiring, and I had finally put it down. The ledgers will stay locked until the first court date, I said calmly. That is in 3 days. The official will decide proper wealth splitting at that hour. 3 days. Mark gasped. What am I meant to do for 3 days? You have your private ledger, I reminded him. The one you have been moving currency into for the past year. That should be enough. Vanessa's head snapped toward Mark. You have a separate ledger with how much in it? A curious change was appearing. Clearly, Mark had not been completely honest with Vanessa either. Mark ignored her query. This is cruel, Amanda. This is not like you. Maybe you never truly understood me, I answered, just as I evidently never truly understood you. Sophie turned toward Vanessa. Did you know he was going to declare it like that at my commencement party? Vanessa had the grace to appear guilty. I thought he was going to converse with your mother in private. The declaration today was not expected. Mark gave her a betrayed look. Gaps were already appearing in their group. I think you both should depart, Elena said strongly. You have troubled Sophie enough for one day. Sophie? Mark begged. You understand that bonds shift, do you not? Sometimes individuals grow apart. My offspring's skin turned hard in a way I had never seen before. What I understand is that you are a weakling who could not even give Mother the honor of a private talk. What I understand is that you were taking from our household while I was laboring to tasks to help pay for my books because you said currency was scarce. Mark turned white. That is not how it was. It is exactly how it was. Sophie stopped him. Please depart, father. I cannot view you right now. The quiet that came after was intense. Finally, Mark turned to leave. Vanessa following behind him at the portal, he stopped and looked back at me. This is not finished, Amanda. I will fight you on this. I faced his look firmly. You are welcome to attempt. After they departed, Sophie fell next to me on the couch, liquid falling down her skin. I have never spoken to father like that. I put my arm around her back. Sometimes standing up for what is honest is hurting. Elena brought us fresh stems of wine. 2 fresh starts, she said, lifting her stem. Truly, I thought this stop was just the start of something fresh. The first court date occurred in a small room on a wet Tuesday dawn. I got there with my solicitor, Robert, while Mark came with a lawyer he had quickly hired, a young person from a firm that focused on business law, not family cases. Mark's bad choice of lawyer was yet another result of his fast planning. The official, an older female with keen eyes and no patience for theater, checked the premarital pact carefully. This paper seems to be in order, she said, looking over her glass at Mark's solicitor. Do you challenge its truth? The young lawyer cleared his throat. Your Honor, we believe the pact is ended due to the span of time that has gone by. Clause 18 clearly says that the length is for the period of the matrimony plus any court steps coming from its ending. The official read out loud, "There is no end date shown." Mark leaned forward to talk quickly to his lawyer, who appeared more and more uneasy. Additionally, the official went on, "The proof of methodical wealth move seems to break the wealth disclosure rules in Clause 20. She moved through the papers, then looked up. "I am deciding to keep the lock-on shared ledgers awaiting full wealth search. Mr. Sterling's private ledger will stay open to him. The family residence will stay in Mrs. Sterling's control during steps. As stated in the premarital pact's infidelity rule." Mark's skin turned deep crimson. "This is wrong," he whispered loud enough for me to perceive. The official looked at him with a hard look. "Mr. Sterling, I suggest you check the pact you endorsed more carefully. This court will meet again in 30 days for the full date after search is done." As we departed the court, Mark met me in the hall. "Amanda, please. We need to talk about this fairly. 28 years together has to matter for something." "It mattered for everything," I answered. "Until you decided it did not." I strolled away, leaving him standing alone in the court hallway, the weight of his decisions finally starting to sink in. News traveled fast through our peer group. Companions called daily, some giving aid, others looking for rumors. I kept a proud quiet about the facts, simply saying, "Mark and I are parting. These things occur." Meanwhile, Mark's carefully built image was breaking. The vision he had made successful trader, loyal family male was damaged beyond mending. The wealth lock meant he could not follow through on vows made to Vanessa. The seaside land they had been arranging to buy failed. The fancy vehicle he had put a deposit on had to be stopped. 2 weeks after the date, Elena called me, her voice tinged with fun. "Have you heard the latest? Vanessa moved out already." I was not completely startled, but the speed was notable. Evidently, she found out that Mark's firm is not doing as well as he claimed. The big wealth he spoke of does not exist. She told her pal Olivia that she did not join to date a male with money issues. I could not help but chuckle. He always was skilled at making fakes. Meanwhile, I was fixing the wealth safety I had always kept apart from our shared ledgers. Gave me liberty Mark had not foreseen. I leased a small room center and started building the advisory I had envisioned for years. My initial guests were 2 females going through separations of their own. Talk brought more. I focused on helping females understand their wealth during big life shifts, separations, deaths, job shifts. The task was instantly rewarding in a way my business task never had been. Sophie, who had taken a job with a selling firm in Charleston, called me often. "I am so proud of you, Mother," she told me after I told her of my growing guest list. "You are helping individuals during their worst times." "I am just doing what I wish someone had done for me sooner," I answered, preparing females for whatever might arrive. Being wanted for my skill rather than my care was a fresh and great experience. Word count 300. The last separation date arrived on what would have been our 29th anniversary, a perfect end to a part of my existence that had lasted nearly 3 decades. Mark got there appearing tired. I later found that his firm was failing without my wealth aid and advice. Vanessa was long gone, already dating a land builder. Most of our shared companions had moved away from him. After learning the whole tale of his trickery, the official kept the premarital pact in its entirety. Mark departed with his own items, his failing firm, and the currency in his private ledger, which, after paying his solicitor, was hardly enough to get a small flat. I kept our residence, my retirement ledgers, and 70% of our shared wealth exactly as the premarital pact stated in instances of cheating. The equity was poetic. The very paper Mark had demanded to safeguard himself had become his ruin. As we departed the court, Mark came to me one final time. "I made a bad error," he said softly. "Is there any chance we could—" "No," I stopped, soft but firm. "That portal is closed." "I comprehend," he answered. And for once, I believed he did. "I hope you find joy, Amanda. You merit it." It was maybe the first truthful thing he had said to me in years. Half a year later, my advisory, Sterling Wealth Shifts, was doing great. I had shifted from the small office to a bigger area and hired 2 helpers. I focused on helping females fix their wealth futures, mainly through big life shifts. Sophie visited often, proud of what I had constructed. "You know what is funny?" she said during one visit. "If Father had just been honest from the start, he might have kept half of everything." Sometimes individuals cannot see past what they desire in the moment. I answered, The female who had once seen herself as Mark S.'s and Sophie S.'s mother had found a fresh self-guide, firm owner, and helper. The packet I had provided Mark at the eatery had not just been my exit arrangement. It had been the lock to a portal I never knew was there. Behind it, I found not just retaliation, but change. In fixing my wealth future, I had also got back something far more precious, myself.